Hi, folks. I have graded your Typhon logs as well as your reflective exercise for this week and provided feedback in Blackboard for your reflective exercises and just your grade for your practicum logs. Your detailed feedback related to your practicum logs has been posted in Typhon, so make sure you click on there and take a look at the feedback that's provided there. Thinking about your reflective exercise, this is one of my favorite exercises to read. It is highly personal, so there's so much I learn about you as individuals, which really helps me understand kind of your approach to your own practice, where you are in your life. It's one of those assignments that I almost wish I could put at the very beginning so I could get to know you better. It's pretty cool here today, and it's a little bit rainy here in Roanoke, so I picked up my laptop and I went and sat on my screen porch with Madeline, and for the past couple of hours have just poured over these stories of how you as professionals have demonstrated servant leadership behaviors, and was just so impressed by the beauty of your hearts, the kindness in your nature, and how you really have applied these principles of servanthood to your own practice. Some examples that you all gave me were working with critically ill patients, especially at the end of life. Several of you talked about that impact that being there when someone passed away has on you in your practice. One of you talked about the role you played in the end-of-life care for a newborn infant, and what that looked like to know that the baby was going to be was actively dying, but not wanting him to die alone, and the family was functionally simply not able to be there because of a medical emergency. That this person took the time to sit in a chair and rock the baby as he passed away, somehow is just very poignant to me, and in very much the same line that several of you talked about sitting at the bedside of elderly clients and holding their hand or holding the hand of loved ones as they passed away. One of you talked about what it meant to be serving our military on the front line and what it meant to be serving patients who were critically injured and allowing them to participate in their care. The one thing that I saw in so many of your exemplars was your willingness to witness about Christ during the midst of a crisis, whether it was a new mom's experience in fear and anxiety, or whether it was the grieving widow that was at the bedside, and even though in that moment of belief was still grieving the pending loss of her husband. One of you talked about an elderly person preparing to die and wanting to be ministered to and not being able to get a chaplain service. So you were aware of someone across the hallway who was a chaplain but a patient, but this patient put on his robe and his slippers, grabbed his IV pole, and walked across the hall to minister to this gravely ill patient. In all of your stories, I was so moved by the presence of Christ in how you explored the concept of what it meant to be of service. And I do believe that is exactly what Jesus had in mind when he said that if we are to serve him, that we must serve the least of his, that we had to go out and serve to the moms who took drugs while they were pregnant, to the incarcerated people, to people who had diseases that were not that weren't glamorous, like someone who had AIDS, that we had to hug them and love on them just like we do our acceptable, our everyday, our ideal patients. When we are in a place when we can serve those with these servant behaviors who we see as being the least of us, I do believe that truly is honoring our calling. And I'm so blessed to have spent this afternoon reading your experiences. It's moments like this that I desperately wish I knew you people, that I wish I was in your practice or I lived in your state so I could just swing by your office and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe all the great stuff you're doing. It's the times like this that I regret that I'm in the virtual world and I can't see your beautiful faces and be able to tell you how impressed I am with the work you're doing. So bless you and thank you for being so transparent and honest in sharing those experiences with me. From an APA standpoint, the reflective exercises all had, general issues, but no major theme. One thing I want to remind you is you prepare to do your final practicum log in Typhon. Make sure that you have read feedback from log 1 and log 2. Those are the times to figure out exactly what your final log should look like. The final log is 100 points. So if you've been getting some points taken off, that's only going to get worse as you move into your final log if you're not making improvements. The big thing that continues to be a challenge for many of you is understanding what it means to add your personal reflections in your log. In the second section, the supportive narrative section, you should be telling me what you spent your time doing. And the next step in that is to tell me what you thought about how you spent that time. What were the pearls of wisdom you gleaned? What were your aha moments? What were the things that while you're experiencing your clinical experiences, your practicum experiences, that you thought, I had no idea it was like this? Or, boy, I wouldn't do it this way if I had my choice. What were the things that made you really think about this experience? I know that several of you were thinking, okay, it's just a log. Why is this important? What we know from an education and a retention standpoint is that when you as students are thinking about your affective learning paradigm, or the personalized learning, that's the affective domain, you're going to retain information better and it's going to become more relevant for you. Think about your patient who's diabetic, and you go in and you open up their new portable insulin unit, and you push all the buttons and you tell them how to use it, and you hand it to them and you walk away. You've managed the logistics, but you haven't taken a few minutes to say, what are your thoughts about having a device connected to you all day long? What are your thoughts about having a little straw pushed into your subcutaneous tissue that's going to leach out low amounts of insulin throughout the day? Does that gross you out? Does that worry you? Does it make you uncomfortable? What are you afraid of? Those conversations we have with our patients about how they're experiencing their health education, about how they're experiencing their disease, are so highly relevant in how they frame it and how they retain it. So that's the reason I really want you to get this component of understanding what it means to reflect on your practicum experience. Folks, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is how you will remember what you did. It has to be relevant, and you have to be doing more than going through the motions. So I am here. We have next week, you have the next of my second favorite assignments to grade. I really enjoy reading this. This is the assignment that helps you talk about how you fill your chalice. Carefully read the instructions. This has a heavy feel, like this week does, of a reflective tone, but you still need to substantiate your work. Make sure you use references, because that's what we do when we're in graduate writing. But make sure as you work through this that you're following the rubric. So support your ideas and follow the rubric. If you have questions or concerns, you want to chat about anything, know that I'm here. Send me an email, and we'll get together and chat. I hope you guys are well and enjoying your week. Y'all take care.